All right, everyone, the other day they did it again. The DNC, the Democrats, were coming out saying, well, the hashtag walkaway thing is a ploy by Russia before the midterms to try to convince people not to vote Democrat. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's 2 years on now. The more Russia stuff had its heyday. The Mueller probe has fundamentally failed and has become nothing more than an investigation into Manafort laundering money 10 years ago. And you're still sticking with the Russia line. Now, let me ask this. How good a political strategy do you think it is to prevent yourself from formulating a sane platform? There's like one plank in the Democrats' platform, which is, hey, we're not Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, by the way, they're sexist and Kavanaugh's an evil person, even though we didn't know who he was a few days ago. You think that it's good to not bother with a platform. You're not bothering trying to dig around and figure out who's going to lead the party, because the top three right now are Hillary Clinton, who can't win, Bernie Sanders, who can't run, and Joe Biden, who may very well not even be alive at the time because he's fucking ancient already. You're telling me that that's a good campaign strategy. Totally ignore all of those other problems and focus solely, again, on Russia. Well, that's funny, because that didn't work very well in 2016, now did it? Hillary Clinton's like, well, Russians don't like me. Russians want me to lose. And then people went back to 2012, right? And they dig up that debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. I think it was the foreign policy debate, the second one. Which, by the way, Obama did win handily at the time. I said that. Most people said that. It was widely agreed upon by anyone who wasn't a total fucking partisan. He told Mitt Romney at the time, because Romney had been asked, what's our main foe on the world stage? He said, well, Russia, obviously. Obama sat there chuckling, and he did that thing where he does the little smirk and raises his eyebrows because he knows he's going to get in a couple of zingers. And he's like, well, Mitt, the Cold War is over. No, they're not a foe. They're a geostrategic competitor on an economic scale, but the Soviet Union's gone. Hey, Mitt, get with the times. It's, 2012. It's not, 1912, worrying about Trotsky or Lenin or something. Don't worry. The Soviet Union's gone, Mitt. Oh, you're just so cute and wonderfully precocious, Mitt. You don't have any idea about foreign policy. Lol, I'm Barack Obama. That's what it boils down to. Now, all of a sudden, that's been totally inverted. Now I'm supposed to believe that the same Democrats that told me Russia wasn't a foe were just totally dumb at the time. So Obama was dumb, basically. We're not dumb now. He was dumb then. And now, all of a sudden, Russia interferes in the Czech elections, and the Belgian elections, and the Dutch elections, the British Brexit referendum, the US election, and it's planning to do so again. It's fiddling around all over the world. Every single election has Russian fingerprints all over it. So Russia went from either unable or uninterested in interfering with any real elections and just basically, had shitposting bots like every nation has a few years ago, to being all-encompassing to the point where now it can flip elections at a whim. That sounds a lot like the stuff that you heard in the Red Scare. Go back and watch some 50s propaganda or something about the Soviet Union and all the things they supposedly did. Well, this dude might be a communist, so be careful about discussing your workplace. Be careful, this dude who mentioned unions the other day is probably a commie. It sounds so similar, except now instead of commies, it's Nazis. They're not commies anymore. They just happen to be Russian. Why is Russia the boogeyman for every foreign policy mistake in the United States and every internal problem ever faced by a political party? I don't get it. I mean, this wasn't the way of the 90s. No, in the 90s, they're like, well, the Soviet Union's gone. Okay, now we can finally get on with the show. I guess around the Georgia crisis times, things are like, oh, shit, things are getting chilly again in this new Cold War. And now the Democrats, I guess they want a Cold War monger after Russia some more to save their skins because they were just taken totally by surprise by Trump's strategy. That's what it boils down to, I think. As far as the public knows, Mueller has no concrete evidence of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, which was the initial scope of the investigation. To the point where Mueller failed so badly he had to choose a dozen random Russian nationals who took money to put out a couple of fucking Facebook ads that were also involved with propping up Bernie Sanders. In other words, they're shitposters. They want to cause chaos, and it's probably for the lulz. I doubt there was even really a political motive there. Kremlin's like, here's some money, cause some chaos, it'll be funny. If that was Putin's goal, trust me, he more than accomplished it, because the Democrats took it like bait and ran with it. And there you go, you're giving Russia an easy victory if they're actually concerned with trying to derail the United States culture and make things less peaceful and prosperous here. You're the ones talking about punching your fellow citizens and wanting to rescind the First Amendment. You look, in the wake of Bush being a dumbass and invading Iraq and grinding down the U.S. economy and getting a bunch of people killed, what was the left saying? Well, if Osama wanted to change our traditions and fuck with the United States, he fundamentally won because, look, you know, Bush has basically done away with the right to privacy. You got the Patriot Act. You got the creation of new expensive bureaus, the expansion of our military-industrial apparatus. We're going into debt. People are dying. So Osama basically accomplished his goals. And that was what the talking point of the left 10 years ago. Now they're saying the opposite. Now they're saying if you don't want to do all of that and 10 times worse because of a Russia scandal from the DNC trying to cover their asses because their emails were leaked, yo, you're a Nazi. You're a communist. You got something wrong with you. So in other words, you've flipped. You've done a 180. Now you're pro-war, pro-surveillance. Fuck the First Amendment in all of its forms. The freedom of press. No, the alt media is Russian, cosmonauts and stuff. Freedom of speech. No, not if it's something that we don't like, that we find offensive. Freedom of religion, yeah, but not one of those nasty religions that cause people to be Russian, or the Orthodoxy or Catholicism or something. It's only acceptable if it's one of those religions that we happen to like. Notably the religion of the Pope at this point, actually. Catholicism would be more on the leftish side as far as Vatican II, as the more traditional Catholics call it. It's totally insane. Freedom of movement is breaking down. Spencer just got kicked out of the Shenzhen area. Now, think what you will about his views. Freedom of movement's kind of important. It's very funny to see people who are like, well, open borders are great, cheering on the fact that someone who has apparently never committed a violent crime in their life would be banned from a bunch of nations that supposedly are first world and love freedom. That's a little bit odd, and it's not like he can't reach people on the internet, so I don't know what the point is. Lauren Southern or Malnou getting banned. It's the same fucking thing. People getting fiscally deplatformed for having some wrong think opinion. Well, you said something we didn't like about a sensitive issue. We gotta block you out. My goodness, you're a threat to humanity. Not like somebody over there who's actually committing acts of violence. So in Europe, let me get this straight in European parlance. If you worked for ISIS, you can come back and you won't get charged or detained or anything as long as you pinky promise not to do it again. But if you have systemically wrong think opinions, no action, just opinions and words, that's 10 times more dangerous. You get blocked from travel. That doesn't make any sense at all. Well, yeah, the words are more potent. Yeah, pens are better than knives, definitely. But come on, it doesn't make sense from a legal standpoint. From a trying to keep people safe pragmatically standpoint, Europe's got its head in the clouds. No, the neoliberal DNC is trying to declare walkaway to be a bot op for the same reason that it tried to declare that its email leaks had Russian fingerprints on them, and then they wouldn't give up their server to the U.S. government to actually study, because they knew it was wrong at the time. They know that this isn't a bot op. They know that it's being pushed by people who have a political axe to grind. Some of those people genuinely did walk away from the Democratic Party. I'm one of them. And if you're trying to declare me to be a bot, that's going to, fall on deaf ears, so to speak. It's not going to happen. I walked away years ago. It didn't take 2016 to convince me that the Democratic Party was a corpse. No, I knew that long before 2012 arrived and refused to vote for Obama, despite how shitty Mitt Romney was, and stood on principle, didn't vote for him either, and said, fuck it, I'm voting Ron Paul. I thought it was a great idea at the time because they were worth voting for. Some Republicans at the time when I was talking about Ron Paul, they're like, well, you better get on board with Romney or Obama will win. I'm like, why does it matter to me? There's no difference between the two. Neoliberal, neocon, wow. What divergent platforms. So one of them wants to tax me at half a point less and start an extra war. That's the only difference. I don't fucking care. Because the parties at the time were run by total morons. Now the Democrats still are. And they're still trying to convince you and me and everyone else that Russia is responsible for their problems. We lost the midterms. It was Russia. Our emails were leaked. It was Russia. Podesta's emails got leaked. It was Russia. We lost some side election. Russians interfered. One of the neoliberals over in Europe got defeated. It was the Russians. It's the Russians all the way down. Reds under the bed. KGB times are back to stay. Spy versus spy constantly. It's totally dumb. The Kremlin doesn't need to be responsible for your problems. The death of the center is something that I and others predicted years ago. It doesn't require Russian intrusion to actually happen. But they're going to keep it up because think of it this way. They need to steal their core fans. they need to harden their core in order to win any election. What's the best way to do that? Convince them that the opponent, they're bitter bigots, they're sexist, they're homophobic, they're racist, they hate foreigners, they're xenophobes, and they're run by a bunch of communists. That's the best way. It basically dehumanize. It's one-dimensionality. Pure propaganda. And they know it is. The intel agencies know that there was no Russian interference into the last election. Beyond some fucking Facebook ads. Do you know how few people were reached by those ads? It was funny. They were talking about, millions of people might have seen these ads, which were targeted at the Rust Belt region. It's really funny. So the Kremlin knew that the Rust Belt is where Trump would shine. How the fuck did they know that? So either they colluded openly or guess what? It's bullshit. How do I know Zuckerberg's even telling the truth? Zuckerberg came out and said, well, don't worry, we're going to stop misusing everyone's data. We find out he's still misusing it even worse. Sold it to China. He claimed that never happened. Sold it to third parties, including groups other than Cambridge Analytica, which now gets banned off their platform and banned everywhere else, hauled in for questioning. They're going to get off scot-free because they broke no law, though. It's just a freak show. It's a shit show. Zuckerberg's in bed with them. There probably are Russians that don't like Putin that are in bed with the DNC at this point. They're like, hey, keep it up so we can put pressure on the Kremlin. Next time there's an economic downturn, it'll pay off big dividends. I'd be much more worried about the Democrats teaming up with the Russians. Honestly, I would. Look, Clinton and people like her love to take foreign money, Saudi money, Qatari money, apparently from Moroccan diamond miners and stuff. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, they're the ones that are like anti-nativists. They're globalistic. Well, then they've globalized their income. That's about all. Peace out.